The stars glittered like scattered diamonds against the dark canvas of space as the science vessel Seeker glided silently through the void. Captain Rex stood on the bridge, his tall, slender frame reflected in the curved observation window. His pale blue skin and large, gentle eyes were typical of his species, the Alari, who had evolved on a peaceful world with low gravity and mild weather. The ship's sensors hummed quietly, gathering data about this unexplored sector of space. It was routine work. They had mapped dozens of similar regions in the past year alone. The Galactic Council always needed new information about potential colony worlds, though they were quite picky about which planets could be settled. Rex watched as his crew worked at their stations. They were a mix of different species, all from what the Council classified as standard worlds. There was Bill, the navigation officer, whose species had 6 arms and skin that changed color with their mood. The science officer, Pete, came from a water world and had to wear a special suit to keep his gills moist. They were different in appearance, but they all shared one thing. They came from gentle, nurturing planets. "Captain," Bill called out, his skin turning a light shade of green with interest, "we're picking up unusual readings from the next system. The gravity patterns don't match our charts." Rex moved to the navigation console, careful to maintain his balance. Even with the ship's gravity set to Council standard, which was quite low by some standards, he still found movement to be an effort. "Show me the data," he said. The screen lit up with numbers and graphs. Rex might have been just a science vessel captain, but like all Council officials, he knew what he was looking at. This system shouldn't have had any surprises. It was supposed to be a regular group of gas giants orbiting a stable star. "These readings," Pete said, moving closer in his moisture suit, "they remind me of the quarantine zone." Everyone on the bridge fell silent. The quarantine zone was where they kept the Ravagers contained. The only known Deathworlders in the galaxy, the Ravagers had evolved on a planet that most Council species considered impossible for life. High gravity, toxic atmosphere, extreme temperatures, and deadly radiation levels had produced a species so violent and aggressive that the Council had been forced to isolate them. "That's impossible," Rex said, but he could see the numbers himself. "The Ravagers are still contained. The defense fleet would know if they had somehow broken free." "It's not the quarantine zone itself," Bill explained, his skin now a worried purple. "But the readings are similar. This system has a planet with gravity almost 15 times Council standard. The radiation levels are off the charts too." Rex felt a shiver run down his spine. The Council had explored less than 1% of the galaxy, but they had mapped thousands of habitable worlds. In all that time, they had only found one species that could survive in such harsh conditions. The idea that there might be others. "Take us in closer," Rex ordered. "But maintain safe distance protocols. If there's something dangerous in this system, I don't want to find out the hard way." The Seeker changed course, its engines humming as they pushed the ship toward the mysterious system. Rex watched the main screen as data continued to pour in. The planet they were approaching was a swirling blue and green ball wrapped in white clouds. It looked surprisingly beautiful for such a deadly world. "Sir," Pete said, his voice trembling slightly, "I'm detecting artificial satellites in orbit, hundreds of them, and there are signs of large-scale civilization on the surface." Rex's heart nearly stopped. "That's not possible. Nothing could build a civilization in those conditions. The gravity alone would crush any normal species." But the evidence was right there on the screen. Cities spread across the continents. Vehicles moved through the air and on the ground. Radio signals bounced between the satellites. This wasn't just a civilization. It was an advanced one. "Should we report this to the Council?" Bill asked, his skin now cycling through colors rapidly. Rex stared at the screen, watching as more data painted a picture of impossible life thriving on a world that should have been dead. Everything he knew about galactic civilization told him this shouldn't exist. Yet here it was, proof that the Ravagers weren't unique. There were other Deathworlders out there. Yes, he said finally. "Contact the Council immediately. But first, start recording everything. They're going to want proof of this." And he paused, looking at the beautiful but terrifying world on the screen. "They're going to need to know that everything we thought we knew about life in the galaxy might be wrong." The tension on the Seeker's bridge could have been cut with a knife. They had been observing the Deathworld for 6 hours when the ship's sensors detected something new. A vessel leaving the planet's atmosphere. It wasn't like anything in the Council's database. "Track that ship," Rex ordered, his voice steady despite his racing hearts. "But maintain our distance. We don't want to appear threatening." The unknown vessel was smaller than the Seeker but more compact, built with thick plates that seemed designed to withstand incredible pressures. It moved with surprising grace for something so sturdy, adjusting its course with quick, controlled bursts from maneuvering thrusters. "Sir," Pete said from his station, moisture suit gleaming under the bridge lights. "They're broadcasting some kind of signal." Rex straightened his uniform. "Can we decode it?" It's already in standard Council format," Pete replied, surprised. "They're using our common language database. The signal says, 'Unknown vessel, this is Earth Ship Aurora. You are in United Earth space. Please identify yourself.'" The bridge crew exchanged looks of shock. These Deathworlders not only had advanced spaceflight technology, but they had also somehow acquired Council communication protocols. More surprisingly, they were being polite about it. "Open a channel," Rex said. He took a deep breath. "Earth Ship Aurora, this is Council Science Vessel Seeker. We are on a peaceful exploration mission. We did not expect to find advanced life in this system." There was a pause that felt like forever. Then a voice came through the speakers, strong and clear. "Seeker, this is Captain Mike of the Aurora. We've been wondering when the Council would find us. Would you be interested in a face-to-face meeting? We have docking facilities that can accommodate your vessel." Rex's crew looked at him with worry in their eyes. The last time Council ships had gotten close to Deathworlder vessels, it had been during the Ravager Wars. But these beings seemed different. They used proper protocols. They asked for permission instead of attacking. "We accept your invitation, Aurora," Rex replied, trying to keep his voice from shaking. "But I must inform you that our life support systems are calibrated for standard Council atmospheres. We would need to meet in a controlled environment." "Not a problem, Seeker," Mike responded cheerfully. "Our docking bay can adjust to your requirements. We're pretty good at adapting to different conditions. Sending you approach vectors now." As the Seeker followed the Aurora's guidance, Rex watched the Deathworld ship grow larger in their view. Its design was fascinating. Clearly built to endure extreme conditions, but also elegant in its own way. The docking bay doors opened smoothly, revealing a well-lit interior that looked more like a peaceful starport than a military facility. "Sir," Bill said, his skin turning a concerned yellow, "are we sure about this? They're Deathworlders." Rex understood his officer's fear. Every Council species had grown up hearing stories about the Ravagers. Huge, aggressive beings that could survive conditions that would kill normal people in seconds. But something about these Earth humans felt different. The docking procedure went perfectly. The Aurora's systems matched their atmosphere and gravity requirements exactly, showing an impressive understanding of Council species needs. When the airlock cycled, Rex found himself facing the first human he had ever seen. Captain Mike was shorter than Rex, but more solidly built. His skin was a pale pink-brown, and he wore a neat blue uniform with silver insignia. What struck Rex most was the human's expression. There was curiosity there, and warmth, not the mindless aggression he had expected from a Deathworlder. "Welcome aboard the Aurora," Mike said, extending a hand in what was clearly a greeting gesture. "I hope you'll forgive our surprise, but we've been trying to figure out how to introduce ourselves to the Council for a while now. We weren't sure how you'd react to finding out there were civilized Deathworlders in the galaxy." Rex looked at the offered hand, then at his crew. In all his years of space exploration, he had never faced a moment quite like this. Everything he knew about Deathworlders told him to be afraid, but everything he saw before him spoke of civilization and peace. Slowly, carefully, he reached out and took the human's hand. It was warm and strong, but the grip was gentle, controlled. In that moment, Rex realized that the galaxy was about to change forever. The Grand Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 100 worlds gathered for an emergency session. The huge circular room, with its soaring crystal dome and floating platforms, had never felt so tense. News of the humans had spread quickly, causing both excitement and fear throughout council space. Lead speaker James stood before the council, projected on massive screens that showed every detail of his calm expression. The human ambassador wore simple but elegant clothing and spoke with a steady voice that somehow put others at ease, despite his frightening origins. "As you can see from our historical records," James said, gesturing to the displays showing scenes from Earth, "humans have built our civilization over thousands of years. We have art, music, literature, and a deep respect for peaceful cooperation between different cultures." The council members watched in fascination as images of Earth's great cities, museums, and space stations filled the screens. Many shifted uncomfortably in their seats when they saw humans lifting heavy machinery or performing dangerous rescue operations, clear demonstrations of their Deathworld strength. "But how can we trust them?" called out one of the council members, his tentacles waving in agitation. The Ravagers seemed peaceful at first too, until they revealed their true nature. James smiled patiently. "We understand your concerns. That's why we're willing to open our worlds to council observers. You can see for yourself how we live, how we handle our strength, and most importantly, how we choose to use it." Rex, now serving as the chief expert on human contact, stood up from his observation pod. "If I may speak," he said, "my crew and I have spent the past month studying human civilization. They are nothing like the Ravagers. Where the Ravagers destroy, humans build. Where the Ravagers take, humans trade. Yes, they are physically powerful, but they control that power with remarkable discipline." The chamber erupted in murmurs as a new set of images appeared. Humans working alongside robots in space, tending to gardens, teaching children, and conducting scientific experiments. Their strength was obvious, but so was their gentleness when needed. "Consider this," James continued. "We've had the technology to reach council space for decades. If we were like the Ravagers, we would have attacked long ago. Instead, we waited, studied, learned your languages, and chose to approach peacefully." A senior council member, her crystalline form shimmering with thought patterns, spoke up. "But your world, Earth, it's a place of constant dangers. Earthquakes, storms, extreme temperatures. How did this not make you violent like the Ravagers?" James nodded thoughtfully. "Those very challenges taught us the importance of working together. When a tsunami threatens a coast, we don't fight each other. We join forces to build sea walls. When earthquakes strike, we don't battle over ruins. We unite to rescue survivors and rebuild. Our harsh world didn't make us brutal. It taught us that survival depends on cooperation." The council chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. These humans were indeed Deathworlders, but they had taken a completely different path than the Ravagers. They had turned the challenges of their world into opportunities for growth and unity. "There's something else you should know," Rex added, rising again. "In my time observing humans, I've seen them cry at beautiful music, laugh with joy at their children's achievements, and show extraordinary kindness to other species. They may be strong, but their hearts are not hard." The lead speaker of the council, an ancient being of pure energy, floated forward. "We have much to consider. The discovery of humans changes everything we thought we knew about Deathworld species. Perhaps," the speaker paused meaningfully, "perhaps we have been wrong to judge species solely by their worlds of origin." James bowed slightly. "We don't ask for immediate trust. We ask only for the chance to show you who we really are. Humanity stands ready to join the galactic community, to share our strength when needed and our wisdom when asked. We have learned to be both powerful and peaceful. Let us prove it to you." As the council session continued, many members began to see that the greatest danger wasn't the humans' physical strength. It was their own prejudice that might blind them to a powerful potential ally. These strange Deathworlders, with their mix of power and restraint, might just change the galaxy for the better. Red alert signals flashed across every screen in the Council Emergency Center. The nightmare they had feared for generations had finally happened. The Ravagers had broken through their containment zone. The massive star maps showing ship movements told a story of chaos and destruction as Ravager vessels tore through the Council's defensive lines like paper. "3 more colony worlds have gone dark," reported Bill, his skin now a deep gray of despair. He had been promoted to Senior Communications Officer after the human first contact mission. "The defense fleet in Sector 7 is completely destroyed." The Council's military commander, Admiral Ray, watched the tactical displays with growing horror. His species was known for strategic thinking, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. The Ravagers weren't just attacking. They were slaughtering. "How do they break the containment?" Rex asked. He had been called in as an advisor due to his experience with Deathworlders. The barrier was supposed to be unbreakable. "They've evolved," Ray said grimly. "Our sensors show their ships are using some kind of new organic metal that can withstand much higher pressures. They've been adapting all this time, and we never noticed." The tactical display showed another Council defense fleet engaging a Ravager battle group. The Council ships, designed for efficiency and comfort, fired their energy weapons at the Ravager vessels. But the massive, ugly ships simply absorbed the hits and kept coming. When they returned fire, their weapons cut through Council shields like they weren't even there. "We've lost contact with the Harmony colonies," Bill reported, his voice shaking. "Population 40 million. The Ravagers didn't even try to negotiate. They just—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Rex watched as more red dots appeared on the map, showing Ravager advances. The Council fleet, used to peaceful exploration and trade protection, was not prepared for this level of violence. Their weapons were meant to disable ships, not destroy them. Their crews had never trained for this kind of brutal combat. "What about the experimental weapons?" Ray asked. "The new shield technology." "Failed," came the response from the science division. "Our weapons are based on disrupting normal ship systems. But Ravager ships—" The scientists shuddered. "They're more like angry animals than machines. They take damage and keep fighting." A quiet voice spoke up from the back of the room. "You know who you need to call." Everyone turned to look at Pete, still in his moisture suit after all these years. He had been part of the first contact team with humans and had seen what they could do. "The humans," Pete continued, "they understand Deathworld physics. They know how to fight in high-gravity conditions. And most importantly, they know how to think strategically while doing it." The room fell silent. The Council had been cautiously building relations with Earth over the past months, but many were still nervous about fully trusting another Deathworld species. Yet now, facing extinction at the hands of the Ravagers, those fears seemed small. "Look at these readings," Rex said, pulling up data from a recent battle. "The Ravagers are operating in conditions that would crush our ships, but we know someone else who builds ships to handle those same conditions." Admiral Ray studied the battle footage carefully. Council ships fought with precision and coordination, but they simply couldn't handle the raw power of Ravager attacks. They needed someone who could match that power but fight with civilized tactics. "Send the call," Ray ordered finally. "Tell Earth. Tell them everything. Show them what's happening. Ask for their help." He paused, looking at the map where more colonies were going dark. "And pray they respond in time." As the emergency signal was sent toward Earth, the Council leaders watched their tactical displays with growing dread. The Ravagers were moving faster now, as if they could sense the Council's weakness. Centuries of peace had left them unprepared for this kind of savage warfare. Their only hope lay with the humans, the Deathworlders who had proven that strength didn't have to mean savagery. Now they would find out if humanity's power, turned to war, could save them from extinction. The human response came faster than anyone expected. Less than 24 hours after the Council's desperate call for help, a fleet of Earth ships warped into the Council space. They were beautiful in a strange way, sleek despite their heavy armor, powerful yet graceful. Leading them was the Earth's flagship, Thunderchild, carrying both military commanders and diplomatic staff. The Council chamber had never seen such a scene. Human representatives stood on the speaking platform, their presence both reassuring and frightening. Ambassador Tom, who had replaced James, wore a formal military uniform decorated with symbols of peace and strength combined. "We've reviewed your data on the Ravager attacks," Tom said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We've also analyzed their battle tactics and ship designs. We can help, but you need to understand something first. This won't be like your normal peacekeeping missions. This will be war." Admiral Ray stepped forward. "We've lost 32 colonies already. We understand about war." Tom shook his head gently. "With respect, Admiral, you don't. Not yet. War against Deathworlders isn't about who has the biggest ships or the most advanced weapons. It's about who can adapt faster, think quicker, and hit harder while protecting what matters." The human brought up a holographic display showing Ravager attack patterns. "Look here," he pointed. "They're not just being aggressive. They're being clever. They're learning from each fight. That's what makes them truly dangerous. But that's also why we can beat them." "How?" asked Rex, now serving on the Joint Military Council. "Their ships are practically indestructible." A human military officer named Mark stepped up. "Nothing is indestructible. We evolved on a world that tries to kill us every day. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes. We learned that the strongest forces can be turned against themselves. We don't need to be stronger than the Ravagers. We need to be smarter." The humans shared their battle plans. They proposed joint crews, Council members operating their advanced sensors and communication systems, while humans handled the heavy combat systems they designed for Deathworld conditions. The Council ships would be retrofitted with human-designed armor and weapons, combining the best of both civilizations. "But the most important thing," Tom continued, "is that we fight for something bigger than survival. The Ravagers destroy because it's their nature. We protect because it's our choice. That's the real difference between us." As if to emphasize his point, alarms blared through the chamber. A Ravager fleet had been detected heading toward one of the Council's core worlds. The humans didn't hesitate. "Thunderchild and Earth Fleet will move to intercept," Mark announced. "We'd welcome any Council ships that want to join us. It's time to show you how Deathworlders fight when they're fighting for peace." The Council watched in amazement as the human ships prepared for battle. Their crews moved with practiced efficiency, but there was no bloodthirst in their actions, no savage joy. They were professional, focused, and determined. "You're risking your lives for us," Rex said quietly to Tom. "Even after some of us doubted you, feared you." Tom smiled. "That's what civilization means. Not that we're not dangerous. We are. But we choose how to use that danger. We protect those who need protection. We fight those who prey on others. And we do it not because we love violence, but because we love peace enough to defend it." As the human fleet moved out, joined by brave Council ships, the chamber fell silent. They were witnessing something unprecedented. Deathworlders fighting to protect rather than destroy. The humans had taken everything that made their world dangerous and turned it into a shield for others. The message sent to all ships summed up the moment perfectly. It came from Tom, broadcast in both human and Council languages. "To all ships, today we fight not as humans or Council members, but as defenders of civilization. Show them what humanity's strength looks like when it stands for something greater than itself." The battle for civilization's future was about to begin, and for the first time since the Ravager outbreak, Hope filled the council chamber. Space lit up with explosions as the combined human council fleet engaged the Ravager Armada near the Centauri Drift. The Thunderchild led the charge, its reinforced hull gleaming under the light of nearby stars. Behind it, council ships moved in perfect formation, their crews working alongside human specialists to coordinate their attack. Captain Maria stood on Thunderchild's bridge, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Ravagers had brought their entire fleet, massive, organic-looking vessels that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. They outnumbered the Allied fleet 2-1, but Maria didn't look worried. "Remember your training," she broadcast to the fleet. "Don't try to match their strength. Use it against them. Execute Pattern Delta." The human ships suddenly scattered in what looked like chaos. The council ships, trusting their allies' strategy, followed suit. The Ravager fleet, sensing what they thought was weakness, surged forward to attack. "They're taking the bait," Rex reported from his position on the council flagship. The council had insisted on having him present as their expert on both humans and Ravagers. "Just like you said they would, Maria." The Ravagers, used to overwhelming their enemies with brute force, had charged straight into the trap. Their ships, while incredibly strong, couldn't turn quickly due to their massive size. The smaller human vessels darted between them, landing precision strikes at weak points that only another Deathworld species could have identified. "Look at their hull structure," Maria explained to the council commanders as they watched. "They evolved their ships just like they evolved themselves, to be as strong as possible, but that makes them predictable. They always expect a head-on fight." A Ravager dreadnought turned its guns on a group of council ships, but before it could fire, 3 human vessels hit it from different angles. Their specially designed weapons didn't try to blast through the Ravager armor. Instead, they created localized gravity distortions that the Ravager's own mass turned into crushing force. "Now," Maria ordered, "council ships, execute Electronic Warfare Package Alpha." The council vessels, previously thought too weak for direct combat, revealed their true role in the battle. Their advanced sensors and communication systems launched a coordinated attack on the Ravagers' neural networks. The organic components of the enemy ships, suddenly bombarded with conflicting signals, began to falter. "They're not used to fighting smart opponents," Rex observed. "They've never faced anyone who could match their strength and outthink them." The battle continued to rage, but the tide had clearly turned. Human ships darted through the chaos like wolves among larger prey, striking weak points and drawing Ravager ships into carefully planned crossfires. Council vessels provided perfect support, their advanced technology amplifying the effectiveness of every human attack. But the Ravagers weren't finished. Their flagship, a monster twice the size of Thunderchild, began charging what looked like a massive energy weapon. Scans showed it could destroy half the Allied fleet in one shot. "They're desperate now," Maria said calmly. "That's when they're most dangerous, but also when they're most predictable." She opened a channel to all ships. "Execute Final Gambit. This is what we trained for." What happened next left even the council tacticians in awe. The human ships moved in perfect synchronization, forming what looked like an arrow with Thunderchild at its tip. Council ships fell into formation behind them, their energy shields linking together. "Full power to forward shields," Maria ordered. "Council ships, prepare to channel all your power through our grid on my mark." The Ravager weapon fired, its beam bright enough to blind unprotected eyes. But instead of destroying the Allied fleet, something extraordinary happened. The combined shields, enhanced by human engineering and council technology, didn't just block the beam, they reflected it. The Ravager flagship, hit by its own weapon amplified by council energy matrices, began to break apart. The sight of their mightiest ship being destroyed by their own attack sent the remaining Ravager vessels into disarray. "All ships, attack pattern Omega," Maria commanded. "Let's finish this." The combined fleet surged forward one last time, council and human ships moving as one. They weren't just fighting together. They were showing the galaxy what civilization truly meant. Not the absence of strength, but the wisdom to know how to use it. 1 month after the Great Battle, the council chamber looked very different from before. The floating platforms now included a new section, a reinforced area designed to comfortably hold human representatives. But more than the physical changes, there was a new feeling in the air. Where once there had been fear of Deathworlders, now there was understanding. Rex stood before the assembly, delivering his final report on the Human Council Alliance. Behind him, Captain Maria and Ambassador Tom sat alongside Admiral Ray, a sight that would have been unthinkable just months ago. The last Ravager stronghold surrendered yesterday, Rex announced. Their remaining ships have been contained, and their leadership has accepted the terms of surrender. But that's not the most important news I bring today. He gestured to a large display showing images from various worlds. These are the Joint Human Council reconstruction teams. On every world the Ravagers attacked, humans are working alongside Council species to rebuild. Their strength, which we once feared, is now helping to lift fallen buildings and repair damaged infrastructure. The images showed humans in heavy lifting suits working carefully around delicate council structures, their powerful bodies controlled with gentle precision. Other scenes displayed human medical teams treating council species, their Deathworld-enhanced immune systems allowing them to work in disaster zones that would be too dangerous for others. But perhaps most remarkable, Rex continued, is what we've learned about ourselves. We assumed that evolution on a Deathworld could only produce savagery. The Ravagers seemed to prove this theory. But humanity showed us another path. Ambassador Tom stood up to speak. We didn't just survive our harsh world, he said. We learned from it. Every earthquake taught us to build stronger. Every storm taught us to prepare better. Every challenge made us not just tougher, but smarter. Maria added her voice. In the battle, we didn't win because we were stronger than the Ravagers. We won because we worked together. Human strength and council technology, human strategy and council wisdom. That's the real lesson here. The council leader, their energy form glowing brightly, moved to the center of the chamber. We have called this session for more than just a victory report. Today we vote on full council membership for Earth and her colonies. A quiet murmur ran through the chamber. Even after everything, this was a big step. No Deathworld species had ever been given membership before. Consider this, Rex said. When we first discovered Earth, we saw only the danger, the high gravity, the extreme weather, the radiation. We didn't see how those challenges had forged not just strong bodies, but strong characters. We didn't understand that difficulty could teach wisdom as well as warfare. The voting began. On the giant screens, the tally began to climb. Some council members still voted against, their fear not entirely gone. But as the final numbers appeared, the result was clear. Earth had been accepted, with over 80% in favor. Tom stepped forward to accept the council membership certificate, his hands gentle as he held the delicate crystal tablet. We accept this honor with gratitude and understanding, he said. You have learned that not all Deathworlders are monsters. We have learned that true civilization isn't about where you come from, but what you choose to become. As the ceremony concluded, Rex watched humans and council members mingling freely. A human engineer was excitedly discussing new ship designs with a council architect. A council medical team was learning about human emergency response techniques. Fear had been replaced by curiosity, suspicion by respect. You know what the real difference was between us and the Ravagers? Maria asked Rex quietly. They let their world's harshness make them hard. We let it teach us to be strong enough to be gentle. The council chamber, now filled with representatives from both gentle and harsh worlds, had become something new. A place where strength and wisdom could coexist, where the lessons of every world, peaceful or dangerous, could contribute to a greater whole. As Rex watched a human child carefully showing a council elder how to make a paper airplane, he smiled. The galaxy had changed forever, and for the better. They had all learned that true civilization wasn't about escaping the hardships of nature, but about choosing how those hardships would shape you.